Let's see what we got here.
So I'm on the other side of one of the great recoveries in sports history. Yet, I told you yesterday, right before we did this, I was out there in the yard and shit, and I fell in I have what we call a less than perfectly smooth area in the back there. We've got that swing set which I should just get rid of, but it's in a shitty area. The ground is not even, so
Hmm.
I stepped in I felt, I twisted oh fuck, your foot is like ready to fall off. You're dying, right?
Didn't hear about
It's
this
killing you.
yesterday. Didn't
Yeah.
reveal this to America yesterday.
No, wait, but well, it's not worth revealing. It's not worth talking about. Anyway, I was kind of fine for a while, and then by late in the afternoon, I can't walk. I mean, it's one of those where you cannot put your foot. One of
Right.
those shit. What the hell is this? And there couldn't have been anything broken. I don't think, because if something's broken, you kind of know it.
And now you're like
But I'm
Kawhi Leonard. You're out for the rest of the series.
I got my foot in ice all evening.
Yeah.
I go to sleep. I get up this morning, and
You're perfect.
I'm 95. Well, it's a little swollen, but it doesn't hurt. I can walk and everything.
That's good.
And so I was this close, I think, to a shattered ankle, but now I'm going to be able to be in the Olympic tryouts. That's what I'm saying.
It's very good to see. That's funny.
Is it just me, or is the reporting, quote unquote, reporting of the Jon Stewart uh, is now a Wuhan lab guy? Am I missing something? He was on fucking Colbert doing jokes about this, right?
No, he's on the side of no. He and Tucker Carlson are the same person now. You don't get it. You just don't get it.
But I know.
That's what they're trying to. I mean, that's the narrative, honestly.
I know. But I'm like, here we go. An analysis. This is Washington Post. Jon Stewart goes all in on lab leak theory. I don't know whether this.
I think Jon Stewart is like this far from endorsing Donald Trump in 2024. I think he's like really close. That's hilarious.
That's fucked up. This is fucked up. All right.
Ready when you are.
All right. It is the Brad and Britt cast. Glad you're with us here. We're in the 1:30 Eastern Time hour live, and later on for you podcast freakazoids. And by the way, did you hear? I know you don't know about this because I do all our negotiating. We just signed a $30 million deal.
Oh,
for this
podcast,
Spotify exclusive. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't be more thrilled. We'll talk more about it later, okay?
On Spotify. Yeah, looking forward to that.
I've got the wheel of fortune here for you. You want to pick one?
Let's go. Give me my topics.
Here you go. Trump tries to write more than 180 words. No one is interested. A conservative is a liberal who's been canceled.
Oh, wow.
Did I mention mansion? Or a big piece of wood just clunked me on the head.
Let's do a conservative is just a liberal who's been canceled. Can we do that?
We can do that. We can do that. This is a story that I read in Reason magazine. You familiar with Reason magazine?
I am. Yeah, I think they're libertarian or something, right?
That's right. That's the libertarian people here, and there's this guy, and apparently he was a very famous composer. Lives in Nashville. His name is Daniel Elder, 34 years old, and he was living in Nashville, doing a lot of work, getting a lot of gigs, writing music, famous in that world. And last summer, when Black Lives Matter protests broke out across the country, they happened to have broken out in Nashville.
Yeah.
Very close to where he lives. And he decided that he was very nervous about that moment and said, I've basically had it. I'm fed up. And he put on Instagram as his final post ever. He said, I'm leaving. I'm done. He said, enjoy burning it all down. You well-intentioned blind people. I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay? That basically has been the end of his life.
Huh.
He is the world's worst racist. He should never work again. He has no friends.
Right.
He does not exist.
Right.
And he was a lefty. He was a liberal. And he's been just attacked, just destroyed, everything about him destroyed, to the point where, here we are a year later, and I won't read the article. You can look at it if you want. Reason magazine's right up there. And his final words were, now, because I was exiled, I started listening to voices on the right and the center, especially those classical liberals who have been exiled from the leftist movement. This strange silver lining is that it shook me out of my prejudices just a bit. Now, here's the point. The way I see it. Okay. The idea that there is this broad cancel culture running around trying to destroy it, I don't buy into it.
Mm-hmm.
Except when you have to buy into it because you can't pretend that it isn't true. When it's someone like this. And that's why I titled your choice, A Conservative is a Liberal Who's Been Canceled. That, of course, is a play on the old A Conservative is a Liberal Who's Been Mugged.
Right?
And I hate this story. I hate talking about it. I hate it because this is the famous, you only have to be right a billion times, and they could be right once, and they win. In other words, because this guy had this happen to him, it justifies saying that nobody can say anything about anyone at any time, or you're a racist and you suck, and get out of here, and you're a Ku Klux Klan member.
Mm-hmm. So is that the reason that you? I mean, I'm trying to walk through this. The reason that you hate this is because it gives you some cognitive dissonance, or what is that you hate so much about this story?
It is because the kind of thing that Tucker Carlson could talk about for 20 nights in a row, and you know what? He'd be right.
Right.
That's a problem, Britt.
Well, yeah, but I also think that just because you are rebuked by one side doesn't mean you have to, run into the waiting arms of Donald Trump. I also think there's that point.
No, he didn't say.
But he's listening to the voices on the right, and the voices on the right are completely controlled by Donald John Trump Sr. But we're not going to pretend that that's anything but that, is there?
This isn't specifically about Trump.
Well, it sort of
He
is.
didn't. He didn't invent this. Al Franken had nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Correct.
It had nothing to do with that.
And Al Franken didn't go. I started listening to the voices on the right after that. So he's figured out a way to kind of. And I'm not saying that what happened to Al Franken was fair, because clearly it wasn't. But he's been able to go ahead and advocate for the stuff that he believes in, get a platform and do stuff like that without necessarily running to the waiting arms of these people over here. So I don't know if that's necessarily the solution, but yes, it is. I mean, it is a problem.
What the guy said, hang on, what the guy said in that Instagram post, the original one, it was not racist.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. And if you're going to take the liberal sphere, the woke-sphere, if you're going to take somebody saying that when people burn down government buildings and someone says that's not a good idea, and you're going to attack that person for being racist for saying that, then you got to jump off that train. Because does anyone agree that burning down government buildings is a legitimate form of protest?
Right. No, nobody
George
does.
Floyd getting killed in Minneapolis.
No.
It's not. It's just not. And so this guy who lived right down the street from a lot of violence and fires in Nashville during that last summer, he was concerned. He wrote that and said, "You people want to fucking burn down the building? I'm out of here. I'm done. See you."
Right.
And he leaves. So it is a problem.
It's going to be, it'll be run down the field, and he'll be a guest there for a while and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter that we've done studies that the majority of those protests last summer were not violent. I guess that doesn't matter. Facts are not important here, are they?
It's not. That's not a good fact. That's not a good relevant fact here, because that's why Vladimir Putin is able to say on Wednesday afternoon, no matter what is thrown at him in questioning, well, you fucking jail your opponents. Seems like everybody who's opposed you ends up falling off a building and these reporters are saying this right to his face. And his response was, guess what? Hey, United States, you suck too. There's something called Black Lives Matter. There's something called January 6th, and 400 protesters were arrested. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. The United States, I'm very secure in saying this, is still, with all of its faults, a much freer, open society and allowing for protest and opposition than Russia is.
Well, yeah.
When we have one issue, a guy like Putin picks it up and shoves it down our throats. And and that's going to play really well in Russia. We know it's bullshit.
Oh, he's also
maybe hang on, Britt. Wait, one more thing. On Fox News, that's what they say. He sounds like Fox News. Yeah,
there's the Fox and Friends this morning talking about how strong Putin was and how weak Biden was as the summit was upon us before the summit actually happened, showing a lot of favorable. I guess we're still doing the narrative about the shirtless Vladimir Putin riding horses and how impressive he is and shit like that. We still doing that?
I don't know, but the first picture I saw, the first still picture I saw of the two of them together, if you play the famous body language game, at least on a still shot, Biden was killing, because Biden was sitting comfortably in a chair with his legs crossed, looked like he knew he belonged, and Putin was leaning back, and we know what that means when you're leaning back,
trying to get away.
And he had his legs man-spreaded like he was on a New York City subway. Okay, that's not a position of strength. Now, of course, that means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. But it was just my first impression.
Well, that actually does go back to some of the stuff about Donald Trump, because there was this theory, at least among the right, of American exceptionalism, that we were better than everybody else. And then Donald Trump turned that on its head. And when they would say bad things about Putin, they go, "What, you think we haven't done bad things? You think this country hasn't done bad shit?"
Well, there you go.
He lowers the expectation.
You're 1,000,000% right, because you can follow that right along.
Exactly.
To what they're saying now. Or as I heard a very wise person say yesterday, can you tell the difference now between Fox News and RT, the Russian television network that our friend Holland Cook works at? Because they're saying the same things about Biden. They're saying the same things.
That's what
about
they were.
Biden.
That's what they were pushing on Fox and Friends. Their morning show about how Biden was weak and Putin was. I think they called him the champ. I think somebody on that show called him the champ, talking about Vladimir Putin.
Well, so if you kill, in other words, knock out,
Yeah,
enough of your opponents, you're like a boxing champion. Is that
I think it's during these things, during these meetings and stuff. He always, I mean, in their mind, he always comes out looking so great, and we always end up looking so bad. I don't know. I guess that's what they're saying.
I'll tell you what, because we're doing this in the middle of the afternoon on Wednesday, we haven't really seen what Biden has been saying. My impression of just listening and watching, he was not very comfortable up there. I didn't see a guy necessarily in command. In other words, I think the smartest thing that Biden did clearly is to not stand there with him.
Yeah.
Okay? Because when he's going to play all these whataboutism games, what about Black Lives Matter? What about 400 people arrested on January 6th for protesting? Well, they weren't fucking they were trying to overthrow our government.
Yeah, it wasn't.
By the way, Putin, you piece of shit. If 5,000 people attacked the Kremlin, there would be 5,000 dead people that hour. Okay.
I don't believe anybody would be. I don't think people would be Mirandized. I don't think anyone would be Mirandized and then get due process.
Yeah. So, but you don't want to be in the position where you are directly answering him like that, standing next to him. He didn't have to worry about that with Trump because Trump was going to agree with him. Trump said, well, yeah, I believe you over my intelligence committee. I believe you. American intelligence lies and you tell the truth. You didn't interfere in our election, Vlad. You're my buddy. Well, he's not going to get that from Biden. So Biden, I think very smartly, not standing there.
Well, I know that they did like a lot of stuff. They coached Biden a lot about the optics, which, he doesn't need to know that much about, but they want to make sure they got all that down. The message obviously is very clear. Biden, stop with your bullshit in Ukraine. And how about not killing gay people? Let's just do that. And that, that's the message, and quit fucking with us and stop with your bullshit about the cyber stuff. Because again, Putin was blaming us for the cyber stuff, saying that we're the real perpetrator and he didn't do anything. I think they've got the message down. It was just a matter of the optics and all that stuff. And it looks like Biden has nailed it, except of course on one channel, in which case he looked like the weakest pussy in the history of America. So that's essentially what's going to happen. But Putin was bringing up the Ashley Babbitt situation, the woman who was killed as she was storming the Capitol. And gosh, speaking of the Republican Party sounding like him, this idiot, Paul Gosar, this is a representative from Arizona. Apparently he's a dentist, Brad, by trade. Right. He demands the name of the Capitol officer who killed the rioter, Ashley Babbitt, saying she was executed. This happened at an oversight hearing yesterday. He said that the police officer was waiting in the weeds for Ashley Babbitt and that she was executed on January the 6th.
Yeah. Hey, Britt, there's a great column. And they ran it today in the News and Record from Dana Milbank of the Washington Post. And he went down the lineup of the crazies. And he wants us all to know that sadly, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who of course was leading the pack a few weeks ago, there was nobody. She is. It's like a horse race where you're way out in front, and then suddenly, the next thing you know, wow, there's a bunch of other horses coming up behind you, and of course, this guy Gosar from Arizona is right in there with the crazy. And there's a guy from Georgia who said it was just a bunch of tourists, and there's about 8 of them. That Louis Gohmert, you know the names there.
But it's just and not only are they trying to minimize what happened and trying to tell us that something complete, it's gaslighting on steroids to tell us that what happened on January 6th was anything other than an armed insurrection and have tried to violently overthrow our government. But now they also find themselves on the same page with Vladimir Putin. He's really worried about this Ashley Babbitt chick.
Yeah,
he's very concerned about that situation.
Right, and so if you're going to say to Putin, how come people fall out of buildings and they get poisoned and they get killed, and if you think that there is some kind of equivalence to this woman dying on January 6th while she was part of the attack on the government of the United States. If you think there's some kind of equivalence there, some kind of equal intention to harm and to hurt, then you are Putin. You hate America. You are Fox News. You are
Right.
RT. You are a propagandist. You are buying into it, and we got to stand strong against this bullshit. You can't let it overrun you. We don't. We never have. But we scratch our heads. We've been scratching them for 5 years now under the how do people believe this? And we're way past the, the economic circumstances of the plant closing have driven people to be. No.
Yeah. Economic anxiety.
Yeah. Income inequality has forced just white people who happen to hate everybody who isn't exactly like them to become Republicans. So
how many Ashley Babbitts does Vladimir Putin kill like a day? How many they just squashes them like cockroaches? How many?
I mean, that
how many times does that happen every single day? I put up a story for those of you that are listening. You couldn't see it. It was about Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson is now full on with a fantastic. He's really forwarding this, and this has been something I think that's been bubbling under for a while, but now he's going hard with it, saying that the FBI operatives organized the attack on the Capitol on January the 6th.
Wait, Britt. We joked about this.
I know.
Probably January 8th that they're going to claim this was a false flag set up attack to make Trump look bad, right? It was liberals. It was
That's
black.
right.
We joked. It wasn't funny then, but that's where this is, right?
Yeah.
They finally come around. They've come to that.
These are the excuses that they've given since January the 6th. It wasn't violent. It was not a violent insurrection. You people are wrong. These were just tourists. It was a little violent among just a few knuckleheads. It was Antifa. Antifa was they were the ones who did this.
And they were really violent.
It was the cops. The cops were the ones that provoked the violence and made the situation so much worse. And finally, it was the FBI operatives. The FBI, that's 5 different solutions that we've been given since January the 6th to this particular, when it's Occam's razor, when obviously these were just violent people who couldn't accept that Donald Trump had been beaten in the election and were told by Donald Trump they needed to do something. They needed to do something about this. And they were cheerleaded before, just ironically and coincidentally, right before they went in and started like breaking windows and trying to murder people. So you've seen some of the reaction to this. You've seen that Liz Cheney was calling out Paul Gosar, saying he was acting like a complete scared pussy on January the 6th as violent people were coming into the Capitol trying to murder anybody they could get their hands on. So that is what is stunning to me, that they brazenly put this stuff forward. And then they're supposed to be, and again, based on fair and balanced principles, you're really supposed to consider this. Now, I don't know. It could have been just violent people, or it might have been the FBI. Well, see, I really have to think about that.
I don't think that you have that right at the end there. They don't expect you or me or people like us to consider this. This is all about just reinforcing for the already predisposed to make sure that they always have enough in the cupboard to reach for, so that they don't doubt. And I don't think in the long run that it's going to work. But as John Kenneth Galbraith said, in the long run, we're all dead. So it may not work in 10 years or 20 years, but in 2022, it might work. And since you and I are old enough to have been hearing, for instance, that right-wing talk radio cannot survive in its current form. It can't keep appealing to a white, aging, conservative audience. It's going to die off. And you know what? It never does. For some reason, there are new recruits.
It sputters on.
It sputters on. And NASCAR's had problems, right?
Yeah,
they haven't been able to grow their audience, but somehow. All right, let's try one of these other ones here.
Um,
Trump tries to write more than 180 words. No one is interested. Did I mention mansion or big piece of wood just clunked me on the head?
Give me the let's do the Trump 180 thing because I love to hear about him so much.
Well, he says he's writing a book. He thinks he's writing a book.
This is the greatest story.
And in the class, this is just, I don't have to tell you because you're going to know this without me even saying it. He's running around bragging that they're falling all over themselves, publishers, to publish this because he's so popular and they know it'll be the greatest bestseller. And of course, that's 180 degrees from the truth. No major publisher wants to touch this guy. Nobody's interested because they'd have to hire 50,000 fact checkers. And so you'd just have a bunch of blank pages, right? Because Trump is going to just lie and defend himself.
Well,
so none of the big publishers are. And what doubly pisses off Trump is that Mike Pence has already gotten a book deal.
That's the genesis of all of this. Right.
Mark Meadows, who, by the way, maybe should be in prison ahead of Trump, but apparently Meadows has a book deal. He's so dishonest. I mean, he was the lead dog in trying to convince the soon-to-be acting attorney general to get in there and try to make sure that the election gets overturned. He's that guy. He was the lead dog. He was the Herman Goring for Trump there.
But the news came out last week that Pence got that big book deal, and immediately Trump was so insanely jealous he had to start lying and putting these wacky stories out there about, oh, they're beating down his door. I mean, they're in his bedroom. They're just storming. Very, very similar to that peaceful protest that happened on January the 6th.
What?
They're just trying to sign him. He's just trying to figure out which publisher to go with.
You know what this reminds me more of? And I think this was actually asked to him directly at a press conference a couple years ago in terms of Trump being able to staff a lot of the undercard positions at some of the agencies, and they were staying empty. There was nobody as the undersecretary of boogers in the booger department, right?
Right.
And of course, Trump's answer to that was, people are banging down the door to work in this administration. Just they're clamoring. They want in so much, and that wasn't true. Nobody at that point wanted to be associated with Trump. He had trouble from day one, of course, and it just got worse throughout the years, which is why by the end, I mean, look at the losers who were jumping in there at the very, very end to supposedly think that supposedly on their resume it'll look good if you were doing something for a presidential administration, and it didn't work. So he's lying about this, and I was reading a piece about this. The first presidential memoir that was ever written was by James Buchanan, of course, who preceded Lincoln and was considered the worst president ever. Wait. This is great. And he wrote it in like 1861, right after the Civil War had started. And apparently it was the worst book ever written. It was just full of shit. But you know what? It sold. Apparently it was a pretty big seller then.
That's funny.
Apparently in the Confederate States, I'm sure.
Well, no, but they didn't have Reddit back in 1861. So yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Had to read something.
Right. Or the Heritage Foundation couldn't buy 100,000 copies to push it up the New York Times bestseller chart. Right?
Now, for you fans of 1970s television, the inside joke there was on Welcome Back, Kotter is the name of that high school, Buchanan High School. They named it after the most pathetic president ever, which it took me years to kind of go, oh, okay, I get it now. It's like the most underdog school in the history of the world.
It kind of perfect that you have this bookend. These bookends of terrible presidents and terrible memoirs that are about to happen. Trump and Buchanan. It's perfect.
It's really true. Buchanan is on anyone's list of worst presidents ever.
Oh, I got to tell you this while I'm thinking about it, because I'll forget about it. Some guy, I don't remember his name. You have idiots posted on your news feed all the time. I do too. And there's one guy, I can't remember, James Van Meerten or something like that. And he puts up a thing that says You know, you have to be a natural born citizen to be a president. Maybe that should apply to people who vote too. Okay. Which, of course, wait. Which would knock out, of course, all
Yeah.
immigrants.
Yeah.
All immigrants, you know, it wouldn't be until the second generation you had to be born on United States soil.
Just pulled that out of his ass, huh?
Right. And of course, you know, he got, fortunately, at least, he got garroted pretty hard for that kind of logic, which, you know, that sounds exactly like something you'd hear Sean Hannity say or someone like that. And I thought, well, wait a minute, how did that work? What does it really say in the Constitution about that? Because everybody just thinks, well, you have to be a natural born citizen to be president. But if you read the Constitution, it carves out the fact that, of course, our first 7 presidents weren't natural born citizens because they were born before the United States was the United States. So the first president to be a natural born citizen who was president, I think, was number 8, Martin Van Buren. The first 7 were. Yeah. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. So what about Alexander Hamilton? Because, you know, he was born in the West Indies or something like that. And it turns out that Hamilton could have been a president of the United States because of the waiver that was going on. Because remember, all those other 7 presidents, they weren't born in the United States either. So there's this myth, I think, that Hamilton was such a great, but he couldn't run for president. He could have.
He could have been there.
President, which I was just kind of interested to learn. That's our fun fact for today. I'm Christopher Glenn, CBS News.
Big piece of wood just conked me in the head. That's my next selection.
You like that one?
Yeah, okay, that's the one I want.
Right. The price of lumber has tanked.
Oh, no.
Turned back around, back down. See ya. All you've been hearing for the last few weeks is it's the end of the world. Inflation will eat us all up. Look at the price of lumber. You can't build a house anymore. The bubble has burst. It is down 41% from the peak a few weeks ago. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. We'll see. So, and we'll be able to talk about this on the Thursday Brad and Britt cast. The most important press conference of this day is not Putin. It's not Biden. It's Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, whatever the hell he's going to say. And we'll see what he says, because that's going to affect your life and my life more than what Putin says. Okay?
I know that somebody spilled, like where we lived, somebody spilled some plywood on the highway, and I thought there was going to be like a run, and people were going to try to kill themselves trying to grab all that plywood, because at that point it was gold. But I don't know.
So what you're saying is, now if you dropped a bunch of dollar bills on the highway, no one would care.
Nothing.
But if the wood falls off the truck, they're gonna.
Hey, you drop some 2x4s out on I-40, people will dodge, you know, vans and tractor trailers trying to grab that stuff because, but you know, like you said, the price is going down though. Hoarders have been turned into sellers, which reminds me, have you explored the NFT market yet? Have you decided to go ahead and hedge your bets against inflation by getting these non-fungible tokens that are being sold by everyone? It's the hot thing in collectibles, Brad.
I don't understand that even more than I don't really understand Bitcoin, which I am.
You got a little.
I got just a little slice. I bought it a couple weeks ago. It went down about 25%. Now it's completely recovered all that, so it's back to where it was. So it's just a curiosity. I'm just assuming it'll come out better in the long run than when I go to Vegas and play blackjack, because in Vegas, when I play blackjack and I take $200 to the table, it usually is zero by the end, and it never comes back. At least with Bitcoin, even when it goes down 30 or 40%, there's a reasonable chance that it will, bounce around. It'll bounce around. I think I bought it when it was at about 38,000. It went down to about 30,000. It hit 40,000. I think it's a little bit below that now. And it was at 60,000 a couple months ago, which would be, be a nice, I don't know, but it's fun. It doesn't mean anything to me. You can do this if it's money that you really don't care
right
about either losing a lot of, but I'm not going to lose a lot of because I can hold it for 20 years. It doesn't matter to me. It just doesn't matter. So
non-fungible tokens are supposedly the baseball cards and the art of today.
Oh, I know what
I
know what they
century.
are.
Well, I know, but there may be some people watching or listening who are not familiar with this, and they're not geeks like we are. It's supposedly a piece of digital art or a baseball card or something that is unique to you. You buy it. It's got a digital fingerprint that is unique to that little series there. And you supposedly cannot reproduce it without creating another barcode. And like Major League Baseball, all the major sports leagues have gone hard and heavy. There's like millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars that are being invested in this right now.
But what I don't understand, I still, someone, maybe you know this more than I do. I don't understand how, let's say the clip, the baseball famous clip of Kirk Gibson hitting that home run in the was it the 1987
1988 World Series.
88, right? That would be, for instance, a very valuable piece of non-fungible shit in this realm if you could, quote, own that, and it might be worth $2 million.
Right.
But there are an unlimited number of copies of that have been made that are out there.
It's on YouTube.
And your ownership of this, quote, original somehow has intrinsic value. Yeah. It makes no sense to me. It's like yesterday I was at the drugstore. And they had a little back and forth to buy a drug because we didn't have this certain card that gave us a discount.
Oh yeah, GoodRx or something like that.
Wait, so no, it wasn't that. It was a specific one for a specific drug that came from a drug company. Okay, it's the difference between a $300 copay and a zero copay.
That's a big difference. That's a fair difference.
Anyway, so I called home. I'm standing in the drugstore. I called my wife. I said, "Shit, they don't have their card in the system." So she had it in her phone and she sent it to me digitally, and I used it. And that was as good as the physical card or the first picture of the physical card. It was identical too. It was, in other words, should there be a non-fungible token of a drug card that would be worth? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's all the same. We've digitized everything for a reason. The concept of originality is absurd. I mean, the master audio tapes of great recordings are worth something because even if they've been duplicated, you can kind of understand
everything is inferior after that original.
You're right. Nothing is ever as perfect as but in a digital world where things start off digitally, everything is as good as. So that's why I don't understand it. That's why I'm not investing in it. And here on Shark Tank, I'm out.
No, you should do. And what they tell you now is that this is, the Michelangelo of the 21st century. That's how Michelangelo is going to sell his painting to patrons all over the world. And you're going to have a large, I don't know, digital frame on your wall. And you'll have an original Pakatakatongi or whatever the guy's name is, and that'll be, you'll have an original. Everybody else will have a copy. You'll have an original Pakatakatongi.
Doesn't that argue against it? That, the Mona Lisa, the original painting of it is it. Everything else is secondary.
And you would have it.
I will not pay any amount of money for anything but the original. And I'm too antediluvian, I'm too Luddite to understand beyond that. And I know I'm wrong, and I know I don't get shit, and I know I'm stupid. And
Well, my objection was always like, this thing seems just ripe for hacking from the Chinese or the Russians or something. Like, oh, I've created this thing that looks completely like it's a real Giannis Antetokounmpo, free throw shot or foul shot or dunk or whatever, but it's not. But it looks exactly like it, and now I've got I've been able to infiltrate the code and all that shit. That was my objection to it.
That's a different problem, but it is a problem. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same as this
No.
whole $1 million for a picture of a stapler that I'm holding up right now. $1 million. Take a screenshot of it.
No, but I've got the only original of LeBron dunking this basketball. This is the only one. Everything else that you have comes from this. I'm the only one that can say I've got the original.
One more thing.
Yes.
To
Joe Manchin
complain about, now that we are getting much closer to the end of the pandemic, and things of that sort. I want to talk about Room Raider, about background of people on TV and things of that sort. I would like to know how it is possible that almost a year and a half into this, 99.9% of people who have appeared on TV, particularly in the world of news, have no clutter in their homes. There's never clutter. There is never. The kitchen never has anything in it. Now, is every shot that's on, is it all fake? Are
Yes.
those all just slides?
Yes.
Is every one of those fake every time? Because a lot of times they're not. They're real. They can turn around and touch something. It's not.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like a real person's house. Like you said, there's always like a spot on the carpet or like a dirty dish or something, and,
Right.
and they don't have that shit.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
Where did that come from?
You got me, Chief.
That's all I want to know.
You had some Joe Manchin news for us?
No, I don't want to talk about Joe Manchin.
You don't want to talk? I'd like to wring my hands a little more about him.
You want the Joe? All right, here's the Joe Manchin story here. The Joe Manchin story. It's because I read a column by Jerry Seid in the Wall Street Journal. It's basically, why is Joe Manchin with Joe Manchin?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's this. It's a stereotype of West Virginia as being this totally conservative state. Of course, it's always been conservative. It's 97% white. They're only 3% black. So, of course, they're going to be Trump, blah, blah, blah. And so, therefore, you get conservatives. And Joe Manchin is not like all the other. Let's look at the facts here. West Virginia was such a Democratic stronghold forever, from FDR all the way through Kennedy, all the way through Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton won West Virginia by 16 points in 1996 against Bob Dole. All right. That's not that long ago.
Right.
And then things changed politically in West Virginia. And again, somebody put up a thing that said, West Virginia, 97% white, 3% black. Why do you think that they're so fucking Republican? Why do you think Joe Manchin is the way? Well, Joe Manchin isn't that way because he's a racist. I mean, Joe Manchin is that way because, and I hate this, I wish he was a better person than this at this point in his life, knowing what's at stake. The entire idea of American democratic government, the whole democratic experiment that we are, that he would say, I'm 74, I'm going to do the right thing now and try to make sure that election laws are uniform across the country. And this whole concept, and I don't hear it talked about much. We'll talk about it here right now for a second. This is states' rights, Southern bullshit on steroids from back in the civil rights era of the 50s and 60s.
Right.
That states can just ignore what is right and what is agreed upon in this country, which is free and fair elections, just do what they want.
Exactly.
And West Virginia is a weird state because, first of all, if you look, it's not a southern state. Geographically, it's way more northern than we are. Okay. Just because it's called West Virginia, it doesn't mean anything. It's not really a southern state, but okay. Well,
culturally, it has way more in common with Ohio and Pennsylvania than it does, North Carolina, Virginia, or anything else. Yeah, sure.
Or or Georgia,
Yeah.
or anything of that sort. But so Joe Manchin has maybe the deepest roots of any senator you can name in a state.
Yeah.
Because of all the jobs he's held. He was Secretary of State. Secretary of State. He knows how elections are supposed to run. He knows the truth.
True.
He was the governor of West Virginia, and he's been a senator for 10 years or so. So he knows the score, and he barely won in 2018. He barely won re-election in 2018. And at age 74, I wish he would just say, I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to vote with my party, and I'm going to retire in 2024. I don't really care. The trend is Republican, and probably he will be replaced by a Republican.
Right.
The way things are. There is no other Joe Manchin, okay?
Yeah.
He is the Michael Jordan, theoretically, of Democratic politics in West Virginia. He's the only guy that can win. There will be no one else that will come along and step into his shoes. So the Democrats trying to pile on him, the point in the column is, should be looking at themselves and saying, wait, we wouldn't have to be held hostage to Joe Manchin, Democratic senator from Republican West Virginia, if North Carolina, Maine, and Iowa hadn't been flushed down the toilet last November. North Carolina, Cal Cunningham can't keep his dick off of his phone.
Yeah.
Joni Ernst, a pathetic piece of crap senator out in Iowa, she should not have been reelected. And Susan Collins, her number was supposed to be up this time.
It was
supposed to be up, and it wasn't. So that's the problem for the Democrats, but it enables and allows Joe Manchin to be the guy that we know right now, who's just enjoying his moment in the spotlight, running and controlling everything.
But pretending that he's not trying to be in the spotlight.
Yes, please don't tell me about that. I don't want to hear about that. That's not. I don't.
There's two. I mean, there was two separate issues. First of all, it was killing the filibuster, and you could sort of. He made somewhat cogent arguments about the history and all this other horseshit. But the voting rights thing, he's never made like one cogent argument at all about why he's against that. He's not said anything at all that would make any sense at all about opposing that situation. And he's gone back and forth and said this, that, and the other about that, but he's never been able to say anything that really makes any sense. West Virginia is a very poor state. They've always relied on billions upon billions, perhaps even over the years, trillions of dollars from the federal government just to subsist for projects and for jobs and for, any number of things. And that's the key.
Facts mean nothing here. You know that.
I mean, I sort of kind of, at first I was a little sympathetic with Joe Manchin's little Hamlet act, but now it's kind of, you do have to pick a side at some point. I know life's going to be really tough for you back in, Morgantown and Beckley and all these other places, but you got to pick a side. You got to be somebody. And if they're going to hate you, they're going to hate you, but you need to at least be the guy, at that point.
Yeah. All right. Back on Thursday.
That is correct, sir.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
Checking out. See you.